Here is a truth the luxury watch industry would prefer you never discovered. A manufacturer with 189 years of Swiss heritage, in-house silicon movement technology, COSC chronometer certification, and military procurement history, all available at prices that brands with far less of everything charge far more for. That manufacturer is Longines, and in 2026 their lineup makes the strongest case it has ever made that the smartest money in Swiss watchmaking is not spent chasing logos. Today we are counting down the 10 best Longines watches you can buy right now, starting with the most accessible entry point in the lineup and building to the single blue-dialed masterpiece that stops conversations in rooms full of far more expensive watches. Number 10. Longines Hydro Conquest. The Hydro Conquest is the first watch in Longines' lineup that asks a straightforward question to every dive watch buyer in its price range, and the answer is consistently uncomfortable for the competition. The question is this: at what other Swiss manufacturer can you buy a 300-meter water-resistant dive watch with a ceramic unidirectional bezel, silicon hairspring movement, sapphire crystal, and COSC chronometer certification available for under $500? The answer is nowhere. That specification combination at that price exists uniquely in the Hydro Conquest, and buyers who understand what each of those elements cost to produce recognize the gap immediately. The 41mm stainless steel case carries the full professional dive specification, screw-down crown, helium escape valve, ISO 6425 certification across select references, and the unidirectional ceramic bezel that provides scratch and chemical resistance across saltwater exposure cycles that standard steel and aluminum bezels cannot survive without surface degradation. Number 9. Longines Heritage. Military watch. There is a meaningful distinction in the field watch market between watches that borrow military design language and watches that draw their aesthetic directly from pieces that were built for and issued to actual military service. The Longines Heritage Military sits firmly in the second category, and that distinction is worth understanding before the prices mentioned. Longines supplied field watches to military services across multiple conflicts and decades throughout the 20th century. The case shapes, dial layouts, Arabic numeral configurations, and crown placements in the Heritage Military Collection are not invented to evoke a period. They are reconstructed from archive references of watches that Longines built under military contract, issued pieces, documented in procurement records, worn in service rather than displayed in collections. The cushion-adjacent case proportions, the large crown for gloved hand operation, the cathedral hands, and the bold Arabic numerals on the matte black dial all reflect the functional requirements that military procurement demanded: legibility in stress conditions, operational reliability in field environments, and a physical construction that prioritized function over finish in every design decision. Number 8. Longines Master Collection Watch. The Master Collection is Longines making its most direct statement about what Swiss watchmaking excellence is supposed to look like at a price that does not require a savings plan, and the statement holds up under examination at every level. The 40mm stainless steel case presents a double-curved sapphire crystal that follows the gentle contour of the dial surface, a construction detail that elevates the visual presentation significantly beyond flat crystal alternatives and is typically associated with watches at considerably higher price points. The applied indices catch light with the precision that good index construction produces, and the printed chapter ring creates a visual layering effect that gives the dial genuine depth. The case finishing, polished and brushed surfaces precisely delineated across the bezel, case flanks, and lugs, reflects a manufacturing standard that Longines applies consistently across the Master Collection, and that competitors at this price rarely match without cutting corners in the bracelet or caseback. Nothing about the Master Collection presentation apologizes for its price point. Number 7. Longines Spirit Titanium. The Spirit Titanium is the Spirit's best argument, and the Spirit already makes a compelling one. Taking everything that makes the standard steel Spirit exceptional and rebuilding it in Grade 5, Aerospace Titanium produces a watch that wears differently from the first moment it touches the wrist. Grade 5 titanium is the alloy designation used in surgical implants, aerospace structural components, and high-performance marine hardware. It is not marketing titanium, a surface treatment or thin plating over a steel substrate. The Spirit Titanium's case and bracelet are constructed from the material throughout, delivering the strength-to-weight ratio that aerospace engineering demands in a watch case that is visually indistinguishable from steel at a distance and immediately distinct in the hand. The 42mm case wears lighter than any steel watch of equivalent dimensions. The difference is perceptible within seconds of putting it on and compounds over hours of wear. For frequent travelers who wear their watch through airport security, long-haul flights, and the sustained daily activity that makes weight meaningful, the Spirit Titanium removes a discomfort that steel watch buyers have normalized without realizing. Number 6. Longines Flagship Heritage. The Longines Flagship Heritage is 68 years old, and in 2026 it remains one of the most elegantly proportioned Swiss dress watches available at any price, which is either a testament to how correct the original design was or evidence that the Swiss dress watch market has been unable to improve on it in nearly 7 decades, possibly both. The 38.5mm case is the dimension that dress watch proportions require, slim enough to disappear under a formal cuff, refined enough to read as considered rather than coincidental in an evening setting, round enough to carry the classical language of Swiss dress watchmaking without self-consciousness. The double-curved sapphire crystal echoes the dial's gentle contour, creating the depth effect that separates a well-made dress watch from a flat-fronted everyday piece. The fluted bezel adds architectural detail without decoration, a subtle visual rhythm around the case edge that creates engagement at close inspection without demanding it from across a room. The sunray-finished silver dial with applied baton indices reflects light with the controlled shimmer that formal watch design requires, present when noticed, invisible when not. Number 5. Longines Heritage Military. 1938. Watch. If the Heritage Military Collection demonstrates Longines' military procurement lineage broadly, the 1938 reference focuses that lineage to its sharpest point, and the result is a field watch of such design integrity that the question of how it costs this little becomes difficult to answer satisfactorily. The world was 13 months from the beginning of the most destructive conflict in human history, and military procurement offices across Europe were specifying the field watches that soldiers, officers, and aviators would carry into it. Longines was among the manufacturers responding to those specifications, and the watch they produced reflected every design decision that operational necessity dictated: maximum legibility, minimum complication, physical construction that prioritized function over appearance, and a crown positioned and sized for operation in conditions that precluded fine motor precision. The 38.5mm cushion case in stainless steel reproduces the period architecture with the accuracy that archival access enables. The black dial carries Arabic numerals in the layout that the original specification demanded, readable instantly from any angle in any light, by a wearer whose attention is divided between the watch face and everything else in their environment. The cathedral hands are bold and luminous. The crown is large and positively engaging. Number 4. Longines Heritage Classic Chronograph. 1946. The Heritage Classic. Chronograph 1946 is the most difficult watch on this list to explain in specification language, because the qualities that make it exceptional are the ones that specification sheets cannot capture: proportions, tactile quality, the particular elegance of a cushion case seen in changing light, the sound of a column wheel chronograph push piece engaging. The war had ended. European watchmaking was resuming civilian production with the accumulated technical refinement of wartime precision manufacturing applied to peacetime designs. The chronographs Longines produced in that period represent a high point of pre-quartz Swiss craft, and the Heritage 1946 is drawn directly from that archive, reconstructed with the finishing standards that modern production enables. The 40mm cushion case is the signature. The rounded, warm profile of the cushion architecture carries the watch's dial at an angle that flat round cases cannot replicate. The wrist presentation is distinct and immediately recognizable to anyone familiar with the period reference. The Panda dial, white with dark registers, executes the 2 sub-register chronograph layout with the restraint that makes period-correct design legible rather than museum-like. Inside runs the Longines caliber L788.2, a column wheel automatic chronograph movement delivering 54 hours of power reserve. Column wheel construction is the refined approach to chronograph mechanics. Cleaner engagement, more consistent trigger pressure, and a tactile push-piece response that flat lever alternatives cannot match. Number 3. Longines Spirit Zulu Time. The Spirit Zulu Time is the pilot GMT that forces a reckoning with what COSC-certified Swiss dual time zone watchmaking is worth, and the answer it provides is significantly lower than most of the market has agreed to pay for it. Zulu is the NATO phonetic alphabet designation for the letter Z, used universally in aviation to denote UTC, the universal coordinated time that all flight planning, air traffic control, and international aviation operations reference as a common standard. A watch name for Zulu time was not named by a marketing department drawing inspiration from a phonetic alphabet. It was named by engineers who understood the operational context and built the watch to serve it. The 42-number stainless steel case presents the Zulu hand, the dedicated UTC reference pointer, alongside a bidirectional rotating 24-hour bezel that allows immediate second zone day-night distinction without arithmetic. The matte dial finish, bold Arabic numerals, applied luminous indices, and deliberately clean typography create the legibility hierarchy that cockpit instrumentation demands. The most important information reads first, immediately, and without interpretation. Number 2. Longines Conquest V.H.P. Silver Dial. The Conquest V.H.P. is the watch on this list that requires the most explanation, not because it is complicated, but because the buyer who dismisses quartz movements on principle will dismiss it without understanding what V.H.P. actually means, and that dismissal will cost them access to one of the most accurate wristwatches available at any price. V.H.P. stands for Very High Precision. The Conquest V.H.P. runs a quartz movement accurate to plus or minus 5 seconds per year, 5 seconds annually. The COSC chronometer standard for mechanical movements permits up to plus or minus 6 seconds per day, 2,190 seconds per year. The V.H.P. delivers accuracy that is 438 times more precise than what the mechanical chronometer standard requires. That is not a close comparison. That is a different category of timekeeping instrument wearing a watch case. The GPH anti-shock system protects the quartz oscillator against the impacts that daily wear produces in the hands, bag drops, and physical contact that a watch on an active wrist encounters constantly. The perpetual calendar runs accurately until 2100 without manual date correction, including leap years, month-length variation, and the century adjustment that most perpetual calendar implementations require human intervention to manage. The V.H.P. handles it automatically, independently for the next 74 years. Number 1. Longines Master. 42mm collection, blue. The Sunburst Blue Dial. Start there, because everything else about why the Longines Master 42mm collection blue sits at number 1 on this list flows from what happens when light touches that surface. The dial is not blue. It is every shade of blue simultaneously, shifting from deep navy at the outer edge through royal blue to a near cerulean at the center as the wrist moves through natural light. The sunburst finishing, a technique in which the metal dial surface is brushed radially outward from the center, creates this gradient effect through physics rather than paint. The light that strikes the radially brushed surface is reflected at different angles, depending on the viewer's position relative to the light source. The dial is alive in a way that a matte or printed dial surface cannot be, regardless of the color chosen for it. The applied gold or steel indices are distributed across this surface with the precision that decades of dial manufacturing experience enables, positioned to create visual balance across the dial face, sized to maintain legibility without competing with the sunburst effect, and finished to catch light independently of the dial surface in a way that creates a hierarchy of visual elements rather than a flat composition.